Okay, so we're back. Oh my god. One more second. Very well. Okay, so the box model. Ooh. Now that you understand the basic syntax of HTML, okay, just making sure the microphone was on. Now you understand the basic syntax of HTML and CSS, we're going to get serious. The most important skill you need to master with CSS are positioning and layout. Changing fonts and color is actually critical. It's a crucial skill. And what I don't know how to read. Oh my god. Changing fonts and colors is a crucial skill, but being able to put things exactly where you want them on a web page is even more crucial. After all, how many web pages can you find where absolutely every element is just stacked on top of another? Learning to position elements on web pages is not that difficult once you understand just a few components. Unfortunately, many learners race through learning HTML and CSS to get to JavaScript and end up missing these fundamental concepts. This leads to frustration, pain, and funny gifs because all JavaScript skills in the world are meaningless if you can't stick your elements on the page where you need them to be. So, with that in mind, let's get started. It just doesn't work. Lesson overview. You will learn all about the box model. You will learn how to make sure elements are just the right size with margin, padding, and borders. The box model. The first important concept that you need to understand to be successful in CSS is the box model. It isn't complicated, but skipping over it now will cause you much frustration down the line. Every single thing on a web page is a rectangular box. These boxes can have other boxes in them and can sit alongside one another. You can get a rough idea of how this works by sticking a border on every element on the page, like this. I am a box. I am also a box with some text in it. This is a list box. All the list elements are in it are boxes. Even buttons and links are boxes. You can use the browser inspector to add the CSS above the. Okay, let's try it. Inspect styles. We want to add a new style. So everything, and we want border 2 pixels, solid, red. What's the warning? Invalid property value. It's actually red, solid. It's not solid red. It's. But did it work? It did work, but I believe it's red. So invalid property value. I don't know why it says that. But anyway, yeah, there are many boxes. Yeah, yep. Everything is a box, right? It's so buggy. Okay, now it's better. Absolutely everything is a box. Yeah. So there might be some circles in the above image, but when it comes to layout, they fit together like rectangular boxes and not circles. In the end, laying out a web page is positioning all its elements and deciding how you are going to nest and stack these boxes. The only real complication here is that there are many ways to manipulate the size of these boxes and the space between them using padding, margin, and border. The assigned article go into more depth on this concept, but to sum it up briefly, padding increases the space between the border, right, and the content. Okay. Margin increases the space between the border of the box and the borders of adjacent boxes. Okay. So outwards. Padding is inwards and margin is outwards. Boarding adds space even if it's only a pixel or two between the margin and the padding. Alright. This is an example to show off the box model, right? Assignment. This video is a straightforward overview of the box model, padding and margin. Go ahead and watch this. It informs everything else. Because the box model concept is so incredibly fundamental, let's dig a bit deeper with this lesson from MDN, Mozilla Document something, I think. Web Docs, Mozilla Web Docs. Yes. And we'll introduce two inline boxes that will explore the, yeah. This CSS trick page has some further information about the margin property that you will find useful, specifically about the section about auto and margin collapsing contain things that you will want to know. After that, we have the knowledge check. So let's have a read. And let's for now remove this. Yeah. From inside to outside. What is the order of box model properties? What does the box sizing CSS property do? What is the difference between the standard and alternative box model? Would you use margin or padding to create more space between two elements? Would you use margin or padding to create more space between the contents of an element and its border? Would you use margin or padding if you want two elements to overlap each other? How do you set the alternative box model for all of your elements? How do you center an element horizontally? Alright, so let's watch this video. Oh, this is the giraffe. Oh no, I thought it was the Giraffe Academy. Yes. So border box takes into account border, wait, 40 plus 40, 80 plus. So takes into account the border and the padding. Very well. I like that YouTuber. Very well explained. The box model. Everything in CSS has a box around it, and understanding these boxes is key to being able to create more complex layouts with CSS, or to align items with other items. In this lesson, we will take a look at the CSS box model. You will get an understanding of how it works and the terminology that relates to it. Block and inline block boxes. In CSS, we have several types of boxes that generally fit into categories of block boxes and inline boxes. The type refers to how the box behaves in terms of page flow in relation to other boxes in the page. Boxes have an inner display type and an outer display type. In general, you can set various values for the display type using display, which can have various values. Outer display type. If a box has an outer display type of block, then the box will break onto a new line. The width and height properties are respected. Padding, margin, and border will cause other elements to be pushed away from the box. If width is not specified, the box will extend the inline direction to fill the space available in its container. In most cases, the box will become as wide as its container, filling up 100% of the space available. Some HT elements, such as header 1 and P, use block as their order display type by default. If a box has an order display type of inline, then the box will not break onto a new line. The width and height properties will not apply. Top and bottom padding, margins, and borders will apply, but will not cause other inline boxes to move away from the box. Left and right padding, margins, and borders will apply and will cause other inline boxes to move away from the box. Some elements, such as A, span, M, and strong, use inline as their order display type by default. Inner display type. Boxes also have an inner display type, which dedicates how elements inside the box are laid out. Block and inline layout is the default ways to behave on the web, by default and without any other instruction. The elements inside the box are also laid out in a normal flow and behave as block or inline boxes. You can change the inner display type, for example, by setting display flex. The element will still use the other display type block, but this changes the inner display type to flex. Any direct children of this box will become flex items and behave according to the flexbox specification. When you move to learn about CSS layout in more detail, you will encounter flex and various other values that your boxes can have, for example, grid. Very well. Examples of different display types. The example below has three different elements, all of which have an order display type of block. A paragraph with a border added to CSS. A list which is laid out using display flex. A block level paragraph inside which are two span elements. These elements would normally be inline, however, one of them has a class of block. I am another paragraph, and then we have class block words. And what if we say inline block? Hmm. 20 pixels. And what if I say border? And what about padding? So the only valid negative value is for margin. Very well. This CSS tricks page. Let's read. The margin property defines the outermost portion. They do talk about negative values. The margin property defines the outermost portion of the box model, creating space around an element, outside of any defined borders. Margins are set up using lengths, percentage, or the keyword auto, which can have negative values. Here's an example. Box, margin, top left, 0, top right, 3, bottom left, and bottom right, 3. Uh, what? Margin top, margin right, margin. Right, top, right, bottom, left, top, right. So it's like the clock. If fewer than our values are set, then the missing values are assumed based on the ones that are defined. For example, the following two rules set would get identical results. 1, so 0, 1.5, 0, 1.5. So one could think that this is top bottom, left right. If you use only one value, it sets up four margins. Four margins. Auto and centering. Each of the margin properties can also accept auto. A value of auto basically tells the browser to define the margin for you. In most cases, a value of auto will be equivalent of a value of 0, which is the initial value for each margin, or else whatever space is available on that side of the element. However, auto is handy for horizontal centering. So in this example, two things are done to center this element horizontally within the available space. The element is given a specified width. The left and right margins are set to auto. Without specified width, the auto values would essentially have no effect, setting the left and right margins to 0, or else to whatever is the space available. It should also be pointed out that the auto is useful only for horizontal centering, and so using auto for top and bottom margins will not center an element vertically, which can be confusing for beginners. Collapsing margins. Vertical margins on different elements that touch each other, thus having no content padding or borders separating them, will collapse. Okay, so vertical margins. Exactly. It's what we saw in the video. Forming a single margin that is equal to the greater of the adjoining margins. So what we saw in the video. This does not happen on horizontal margins, only vertical. To illustrate, we have the following. Right. So we only have 10 pixels, not 20. Right, now we have 40. Not 60. It's not this. Yeah. Negative margins. As you might suspect, while a positive margin value pushes other elements away, a negative margin will either pull the element itself in that direction or pull other elements towards it. Here's an example of a container with padding, and the header h2 has negative margins, pulling itself through that padding back into the edges. So let's see the HTML. We have module, which is everything. Then we have a header to header, and then we have lorem ipsum with a paragraph. Now let's see. Module will have a padding of 1 rem, very well, so here and here, I think. And we'll have a background white. Can we see this on the web page? Yeah, I would love to see this on the web page. Right. And what if we have 4? Right. So if we didn't have the margin, the negative margin, we would be watching or seeing the padding on top. And let's see if my theory is right. Right. So in this case, we're pushing the margin 1 rem very well. It's perfect fit. And we could just do this, which should also work. But, right, because this one is 1. So top -1, so it goes up. Left -1. Wait. Mm, right, so it goes up, it goes right. Right. We don't want it to go bottom. I'm a bit confused now. What if we change this to 1? Right, we don't want 1 rem. Let's do 1 by 1. Margin top. -1. It goes all the way up. Margin left. -1. Rem. So instead of creating a margin, suppresses the margin. And let's see what the CSS looks like. Oh, header. Right. So we have a padding of 16, but I want a module. So module has a padding, has this padding, correct? Now header is using this margin. So let's see. Right. Right. And there's an auto margin for the bottom. Hmm, I think P has a default margin, right? Yes, of 1 EM. That's why this makes no difference. This value makes no difference at all. Good to have it, but it makes no difference. Now we understand this. Right. Very well. So let's answer all the questions. Don't save. The box model. From inside to outside, what's the order of box model properties? The content, the what comes next? The padding, border, margin. Padding, the border, and the margin. What does the box sizing CS property do? When we use box sizing, we can change how elements count, the width and height from, from either taking into account the and or just the element size. Correct. What is the difference between the standard and alternative box model? What's this alternative? Are they talking about a border box? Did we read this? We were here and I think, oh, we skipped this. Why? Why did we skip this? My god. The standard CSS box model. But actually, the CSS box model as a whole applies to block boxes and defines how the different parts of a box, margin, border, padding, and content, work together to create a box that you can see on the page. Inline boxes use just some of the behavior defined in the box model. To add complexity, there's a standard and an alternate box model. By default, browsers use the standard box model. Parts of a box. Making up a box in CSS, we have this. Content box. The area where your content is displayed. Size. Size it using with content box. The area where your content is displayed. Right. Size it using properties like inline size and block size, or width and height. Right. Padding box. The padding sits around the content as a white space, sized using padding. Border, same, using border. Margin, using margin. The standard CSS box model. In the standard box model, if you give a box an inline size and a block size, or width and height attributes, this defines the inline size and block size of the content box of the content. Any padding and border is then added to those dimensions to get the total size taken up by the box. If we assume that a box has the following CSS: 350, 150, 10 pixels, and padding, we'll have a total height of 50 plus 20, 70, very well, 220. Sorry, 210. Yeah. Because the margin will be, wait, if we assume that a box has the following, it's gonna be 5 plus 5, 10 plus 50, 60, yeah, 210. And the width, it's gonna be 350 plus 50, 410, right? The alternative CSS box model. In the alternative box model, any width is the width of the visible box on the page. So this is the alternative. Very well. So let's answer this. But actually, let's finish this document. Use the web browser, margin. We talk here about margins and negative margins, collapsing borders. Right. The border style, padding, inline boxes. So the span has margin, padding, border. And this is happening because of the width. So this doesn't work. It does work. 40 margin. Padding 20, 40, 50, 50. Oh, 10, 20. Width, no effect at all whatsoever. Let's reset background color and border. Yeah. In the example below, we have a span inside the paragraph. This is this is ignored, of course, because of the display inline, which is default. If we change this to block, the width would be taken into account. And if it was just block, it's pushing everything away. But inline, we'll let this be here. They talk about this here. Link 1, link 2. Correct. Let's test our skills. There are two boxes below. One is using the standard box model, the other the alternate box model. Change the width of the second box by adding declarations to the alternate class so that matches the visual width of the first thing. But what happens if they both change? Oop, oop, test my skills. So if I change this here, it says here change the class. So let's do some maths. This one is using the standard, so it's gonna be width. So let's fix the width first. Width, it's 300 plus 40 plus, so 80 plus 10, 90. So let's do here. Width, it's gonna be 300 plus 40 times 2. Okay, let's try this. So it's not like this. 300 pixels plus even 5 pixels times 2. Very well. 8 is gonna be 150 pixels plus 40 pixels times 2 plus 5 pixels 5 pixels times 2. So now they look the same. Very well. Yeah. And the border is still respected, the margin is still respected. This is just changing the content so that it fits, right? Task 2. In this task, add to the box a 5 pixel black dotted border, 5 pixel black dot, a top margin, top of 20 pixels, a right margin of 1 em, a bottom margin of 40 pixels, and a left margin of 2 em. And this should be just white. Padding on all sides of 1 em. very well. Yeah, it looks like that. Task 3. By the way, what is this? La, la, la. Ah, task 3. In this task, the inline element has a margin, padding, and border. However, the lines above and below are overlapping. What can you add to your CSS to cause the sizing of the margin, padding, and border to be respected by the other lines while still keeping the element inline? Your final result should look like the image below. Okay, so we want this. I am assuming they have a height, which is being respected, but okay. Uh, Actually, no, they don't have a height. So if I could put a height, but it's gonna be ignored, right? Of course, because it's a span. So what we wanna do is display inline block. Ta-da. So it's actually working now. Okay, we're done. Let's continue answering this. What's the difference between the standard and alternative box model? The stand box will mm, and we uh, apply them to the on box. This is not always the best since the box is beyond content, including the border and padding. So a box might be bigger. What you can change this by altering the box model. Then the height and attribute will the box size, including the and padding, and the content will grow to fill. Would you use margin or padding to create more space between two elements? Margin. Would you use margin or padding to create the space between the contents of an element and its border? Padding. Would you use margin with a negative value? Okay, 2, very well. How do you center an element horizontally? By using margin outer the or right element will will take the space. Mm, very well. Let's review this. There's a little mistake here. Okay, so and of course we need to. I forgot. We very well. So we have completed this lesson. 54% completed. Just one more, and we will be finished with CSS Foundations. I have learned many things, and I am happy. Mm, by the way, thank you for the follow. One second. Introduction. In the previous lesson, we discovered that different display types have unique box models, and we can modify the box calculation by changing the display property. CSS has two box types, block and inline boxes. Wait one second, just to process this information. Okay, lesson overview. You will learn about normal flow. You will learn the difference between block and inline elements, and you will learn which elements default to block and which elements default to inline. You will learn what dips and spans are. Block versus inline. Most of the elements that you have learned about so far are block elements. In other words, their default style is display block. By default, block elements will appear on the page stacked atop each other. Each new element starting on a new line. Correct. Inline elements, however, do not start on a new line. They appear in line with whatever elements they are placed beside. A clear example of an inline element is a link or a tag. If you stick one of these in the middle of a paragraph or text, it will behave like a part of the paragraph, like this. Yeah, it didn't break line. The link test will sit alongside other words in a paragraph. Additionally, padding and margin behave differently on inline elements. In general, you do not want to try to put extra padding or margin on inline elements. The middle ground inline block. Inline block elements behave like inline elements, but with the block style padding and margin. It is a useful tool to know about, but in practice, you will probably end up reaching for Flexbox more often if you're trying to line up a bunch of boxes. Flexbox will be covered in depth on the next lesson. Very well. Divs and span. We can't talk about we can't talk about we can't difficult to pronounce it. We can't talk about block and inline elements without discussing divs and spans. All other HTML elements we have encountered so far give meaning to their content. For example, paragraph elements tell the browser to display the text it contains as a paragraph. Strong elements tell the browser which text within are important and so on. Yet, divs and spans give no particular meaning to their content. They are just generic boxes that can contain anything. Having elements like this available to us is a lot more useful than it may first appear. We will often need elements to serve no other purpose than to be hook elements. We can give an ID or class to target them for styling with CSS. Another use case we will face regularly is grouping related elements under one parent element to correctly position them on the web page. Divs and span provide us with the ability to do that. Divs is a block level element by default. It is commonly used as a container element to group other elements. Divs allow us to divide the page into different blocks and apply styling to those blocks. Very well. Span is an inline level element. By default, it can be used to group text contents in line HTML elements for styling and should only be used when no other semantic HTML element is appropriate. Right. Assignment. We have an assignment. The concept of normal flow is implied in the box model resources, but it isn't laid out very specifically. Read normal flow from MDN to make sure you understand how elements lay themselves out by default. Very well. W3 Schools HTML block and inline elements has a description and a list of all default blocks and inline elements. Very well. The DigitalOcean tutorial Inline versus Inline Block Display in CSS has a couple of great examples that clarify the difference between inline and inline block. Go to our CSS exercises repository and navigate to the margin and padding directory. Review each README file prior to completing the following exercises in order. Note: solutions for these exercises can be found in the solution folder. 5. Apply what you learned about the box model to improve the look of your recipe page index.html homepage. Currently, it is just a plain list, so get creative with layout, colors, and styles to make your page unique and captivating. Very well. Knowledge check. This section contains questions for you to check your understanding of this lesson on your own. If you are having trouble answering a question, click it and review the material it links to. What is the difference between a block element and an inline element? What is the difference between an inline element and an inline block element? Is an H1 block or inline? Is button block or inline? Is div block or inline? Is span block or inline? Normal flow. This article explains normal flow, or the way that web page elements lay themselves out if you haven't changed their layout. As detailed in the last lesson, introducing layout elements on a web page layout in normal flow if you haven't applied any CSS to change the way they behave. And as we began to discover, you can change how elements behave either by adjusting their position in normal flow or by removing them from it altogether. Starting with a solid, well-structured document that is readable in normal flow is the best way to begin any web page. It ensures that your content is readable, even if the user is using a very limited browser or a device such as a screen reader that reads out the content of the page. In addition, since normal flow is designed to make a readable document, by starting in this way, you're working with the document rather than struggling against it as you make changes to the layout. Before digging deeper into different layout methods, it's worth revisiting some of the things you have studied in previous modules with regard to normal document flow. How are elements laid out by default? The process begins as the boxes of individual elements are laid out in such a way that any padding, border, or margin they happen to have is added to their content. This is what we call the box model. By default, a block level element's content fills the available inline space of the parent element containing it, growing along the block dimension to accommodate its content. The size of inline level elements is just the size of their content. You can set width or height on some elements that have a default display property value of inline, like image, but display will still remain inline. If you want to control the display property of an inline level element in this manner, use CSS to set it to behave like a block level element with display block or display inline block, which mixes characteristics from both. That explains how elements are structured individually, but how about the way they are structured when they interact with one another? The normal layout flow, mentioned in the layout introduction article, is the system by which elements are placed inside the browser's viewport. By default, block level elements are laid out in the block flow direction, which is based on the parent writing mode. Each element will appear on a new line below the last one, with each one separated by whatever margin that's been specified in English, for example, or any other horizontal top or bottom writing model. Block levels elements are laid out vertically. Right, so it's like this. So one paragraph, another paragraph, another paragraph, a list, element 1, 2, 3. If two vertically adjacent elements both have a margin set on them, and their margins touch, the larger of the two margins remains and the smaller one disappears. This is known as margin collapsing. Collapsing margin is only relevant in the vertical direction. Let's look at a simple example that explains this. Right. Summary. In this lesson, you've learned the basic of normal flow. Can we edit this? I think so. I think it doesn't work. Hmm. I wonder why it's not working. I broke the web page. What? I think I broke it. Yeah, something is wrong. W3 Schools HTML block and inline elements has a description and a list of all the default elements. Here are the block level elements: address, article, site, block code, canvas, dd, div, dl, dt, file set, big caption, figure, footer, font, h1 to exit, header, hr, li, main, nav, no script, ol, p, pre, section, table, default, ul, and video. And for the inline elements, we have A, ABBR, acronym, B, video, big, BR, button, site, code, event, EMI, image, input, ABD, label, map, object, output, queue, stamp, script, select, small, span, strong, sub, sup, text area, time, tt, and bar. Note: an inline element cannot contain a block level element. Interesting. The div element often is used as a container for other HTML elements. Very well. Let's see this tutorial. Inline versus inline block display in CSS. Introduction. Display inline block. Sorry, I will start again. Display inline block brought a new way to create side-by-side boxes that collapse and rack properly depending on the available space in the containing element. It makes sure layouts that were previously accomplished with floats easier to create. No need to clear floats anymore. Compared to display inline, The major difference is that inline block allows to set width and height on the element. Also with display inline, top and bottom margins and paddings are not respected, and with display inline block they are. Now the difference between inline block and display block is that display block, with display block, a line break happens after the element, so a block element doesn't sit next to other elements. Correct. Right. Correct. Very intuitive. Very nice. So let's do these exercises about margin and padding. It's not this. Ocean. Let's try ocean today. Ooh, cute. So ls order by time head. Now I want to copy recursively force the Odin Project curriculum exercises, right? What do we have here? Foundations, exercises, no? Let's see. Let's click here and let's see what it is. Oh, it's not this, it's CSS exercises, sorry. CSS exercise. So, margin and padding. And let's copy that to the Odin project. Foundations first. Okay, so let's see how this went. Now we have this and this folders, which are great. Also, let's make sure we are working out to date on branch main. Sorry. Correct. Desired outcome. Very well. Let's read. 1. Margin and padding practice. For this first exercise, simply edit the style.css file so that the div looks like the image below. Only edit the CSS where instructed in the file. You should only have to change the values of the margin and padding for this exercise. You should not have to add or remove properties in the CSS or touch this HTML. Self-check. Use this section to check that your work, yes. Div 1 and Div 3 have 32 pixels between their text and border. So let's check that. Let's do something like this. Very well. So this is what we have right now. Let's follow this instructions. Is it linked? It is linked here. Now we have 1, 2, 3 divisions. 1, 2, 3. Very well. It says div 1 and div 3 have 32 pixels between their text, right? And the border. So between the text and the border, that's the padding. So let's do that. Padding 32 pixels. Or we can comment this. Let's see. Very well. It looks a lot like the result. Yes. Let's continue. Div 1 has 12 pixels between it and any other element on the page. Okay, that's the margin, 12 pixels. And let's see, and that's right. Look, so let's do that. 1, 12 pixels. Very well. 3 is a 48 pixel gap between div 2 and div 3. I know this is a small change, but probably it should say div 3. Div 3 is, let's open an issue about this. It's never wrong to make changes like this. It's a very small and stupid change, but it makes it even better, the content, right? Because we have a pattern here, div 1, div 1, div 3, div 3, but here it only says 3, and it gives this like unreviewed feeling to it, you know. And there are so many eyes on the project. If everyone was just pointing out all these small issues, the content would be so good, with so many with such a pleasant content, and consistent content, you know. It's all about improving, being better. So I will open uh, I will open uh, a pull request for this. Div 3 is a line, so div 3 is a 48 pixel gap between div 3. Div 3 is a 48. Wait, what? Div 1 has a 12 pixel, has 12 pixels between it and any other element of the pixel. 3 is a 48. What do you mean div 3? I think it's div 3 has a 48 pixel gap between div 2. Oh, I was reading this 3, it's there. You know, I'm tired. So I'm, of course, I have the dyslexia. I swear. But that's why reading is very helpful. 3. I don't know why I thought it said 3. I was switching the R with the E. No, 3. There is a 48 pixel gap between div 2 and div 3. 48 pixel gap. So 3 margin top 48 pixel, and we can do margin 48 pixel. How this looks? Very well. Div 3 is aligned to the right. Very well. Ah, sorry. Of course, text align is to align the text. So how can we align this to the right? Let's think. Div 3 is aligned to the right. Div 3's alignment is achieved using margin, not float, flexbox, etc. I know. We can use margin left auto, and it will fill up all the inline space. So here, because this has 200 pixels width, let's see. Ooh, very well. It looks exactly like this. Yes. Let's see the solution. Yeah. Margin padding. Right, we have padding 32 here. Margin bottom 48. I've included it both places, but whatever. Margin 12, padding. Yep. 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 So delete. Now exercise number 2. Margin and padding number 2. This is a little nicer looking. This is a little nicer looking and a little closer to something you might see in the real world. You'll need to change a little more than just the margin and padding to make it look exactly right. Self-check. First, just to do it more challenging, let's try to do it without self-check. Don't say. Index. Let's see. This is how it looks. And it should look like this. So first of all, I see a border on the card. So card, border, I think it's 10 pixels, solid, white. Very well. It looks like, wait, yes, it looks like the border here is bigger, you know. Let's do it bigger. Because it should have, ah, because it has a margin 16 pixel. Very well. It's 15, perhaps it's even 20. Let's see the solution. No, it's 15. I think. Yes, more or less. What else? Sorry. For now, let's remove this margin. 0. Okay. Now, let's see. Card. Title. I am a card. Content and button. Title, content, and button. And the button, okay. The solution, where is it? I'm a card. I'm a card. It has a padding, so title 1M. It's a lot, 5 pixels. Yeah, this looks about right. No, a little bit more, 15 or 10. Let's see. Yeah, this looks correct. Now, why is the margin being pushed? I don't know. We're saying, let's review. We are saying, I think it's because it has a default margin of 1 EM. If I put 1 EM, it's gonna be the same. Or even, no, perhaps it's less than 1 EM. Let's have a look. Why is this div adding a margin? Yeah, there it is, the margin. We have the padding, which is correct, and then this has a margin. Why? Margin block 0.67 EM. Why? I don't know, but it does. So let's change that. Minus 15 pixels. Okay. Let's see what's happening. Card, card. Oh, this is not for the, this is for the title. Sorry. Ah, wait. This is correct, I think. Um, right. And now here, margin. Right. But maybe just if we say margin 0. Right. So, looks good. Now let's see the desired outcome. So there should be a space of also 15 pixels between each element. So let's do that. So title, content, they all have margin of 15 pixels. There's only one issue. We want this, we want title to have 0. Probably. Oh, and it's just on top. So we can also do auto. See the solution. They have a little bit of padding. So let's add that. Mhm. Yes. And this is aligned to the center. Which one is to the center? Just the bottom. Center. And it does have something else. It has a button. So button border. It's not respecting this border actually. Or is it? Oh, it is. Display block margin auto. And let's add this to the list of things. It looks like it has a different padding actually. Maybe something like 5 pixels by 15 pixels, right? And this space is very big. It's very big. Why is that? We have the button container with a margin of 15 and the padding let's inspect. Right, so it has a margin like we said, and then the card has a, the card has, so it's the border plus so probably we want to content delete this from display. Yes. So let's see this. There is 8 pixels between the edge of the card and its content. There's an 8 pixel between the edge of the card, right, and its content. So card, this is not 15, it's 8 pixels. There's an 8 pixel gap between each of the blue sections. So everything that was 15 just got converted to 8. The title of the card uses a 16 pixel font size, 16 pixels. There are 8 pixels between the title text and the edge of the title section. Just make sure. Okay. Looks bigger, but let's see. There are 8 pixels between the title. Yeah, the content section has 16 pixels space on the top. So the content section, which one is it? Okay. Between the title text and the edge of the section. So the padding is 8, right? Everything inside button container section is centered and there's an 8 pixel padding. Yes. Oh, we are missing a padding here. I didn't notice. The content. Why is the content not applying this padding? Or is it? No, it is. It's just it's bigger. This is bigger. This padding. Let's keep reading. The big button is censored on its own line. The big button has 24 pixel space on the sides and 8 on top. The big button has 24 pixel space on the sides and 8. Okay, so 24, 8. Okay. Just this looks bigger, but there's nothing here saying. Content section has 16 pixel space on the top and bottom and 8 pixels. Oh, it does say this. So content is not here. Margin. How much? 14 or 16? 16. So 16 top, bottom, 8. Looks identical. So let's do that. Let's do something. Compare this. Layout. Solution. CSS. Yeah. Yes. Card, width 400, background margin. There's no font size. Ah, let's see, of course. I don't know why I put the font size there. Yeah, okay. Width, background, margin. Mm, let's see how radical is the change. There's no change. It's the exact same. So without style, right? The same thing. But they decided to do here margin 16 pixels auto. Hmm. Mm, right, so they are adding this. Now title, they added margin top 0, margin bottom. Hmm. Card, margin top, margin bottom, padding. Yeah, we have padding 8 pixels. Then margin bottom 8. I don't think it's necessary because the content will, of course, do that. It's okay. Now, content, margin bottom 8. Padding 16 and 8. Text align center, padding 8, yeah. Margin 0 auto, 824. Okay, it's the exact same thing. Delete for you. Very well. So let's answer this. All right. All right. Block and inline. What is the difference between a block element and an inline element? Element will comment doesn't respect the width and height comment attributes and will cause from it. It will I would say this is a good description. A block element will take all the inline space available of the parent when no width or are and cause all other elements to move away from it. Right. Let's see. What's the difference between an inline element and an inline block element? Inline element respect the margin attribute the height or height while in inline block move away from it. Inline block will respect this attribute. Or is it its block? Button is inline. Div is block. Span is inline. Oopa, I forgot. I forgot here. This. Let's see. Very nice. Let's go to the README. Inspecting HTML and CSS. Wait. Inspecting HTML. Okay. Inspecting, yeah. the box model, block and inline. Great. Save, save. We can add this. So what did we do here? Assignments. So both are from foundations and both are from block and inline. And what's the name? Margin and padding. Generic name. And so this is margin and padding 1. Okay. What can we put here? We can put something like margin. How does a box? Oh, this one is nice. Okay, so I like this combination of emojis very well. Okay, foundations, block and inline, margin and padding 1. Everything looks nice. So let's commit. Let's commit. Well, let's finish first this. We finish this. Mark complete. Next lesson. We've completed this. Intro to CSS, the cascade exercise. Git start. Readme git patch. So yes, we are adding these 2 lines. Yes. And yes, Very well. So, git commit message. CSS foundations. And what did we do? We did inspecting. Very well. How is our pull request? Still no comments. This is sad. Okay. The Odin. Let's see our knowledge check how it's. Mm, There's an extra here. Okay, Let's let's see why. Hmm. Okay. So a little typo. Okay. Yeah, and we need to fix this. Yeah. Mhm. Yes. Block and line. Very well. Everything looks good. Perhaps it has not finished uploading this. No, it has already. Let's see why. Margin padding. Very well. Let's go back to the Odin Project. This one works. No, I didn't want to copy this. Foundations, margin. And what would the problem be? I don't know. Foundations, curse. Let's see if something changes here. Oh yes. Ooh, I found a typo. Project. There's a T here missing. Okay. We have 7 commits. Let's look at them. Very well. Looks organized. On the next commit, this will be fixed. And why is this like this? Okay, we also need this here. Very well. I will leave now. It was a short stream, 2 hours only. Next time we will finish Flexbox and hopefully start this project, rock paper scissors. So until Monday, thank you for joining.